December 1941. Springfield Armory, Massachusetts. As Japanese forces swept across the Pacific and Nazi Germany controlled most of Europe, the United States Army possessed a weapon no other nation had issued to its standard infantry. While German, British, Japanese, and Soviet soldiers operated bolt-action rifles requiring manual cycling between each shot, every American rifleman carried a semi-automatic weapon. 8 rounds, no manual bolt. Faster reloads than any enemy force would encounter. General George S. Patton would later call it the greatest battle implement ever devised. This is the story of the M1 Garand rifle. The M1 Garand represented a fundamental shift in infantry firepower. Adopted by the U.S. Army in 1936, it became the world's first semi-automatic rifle, issued as standard equipment to all infantrymen. Springfield Armory records confirm that by December 1941, approximately 600,000 M1 rifles had been produced. By war's end in 1945, that number reached 5.4 million. Every enemy soldier in World War II operated a bolt-action rifle. The German Karabiner 98K held 5 rounds and required the shooter to manually cycle the bolt between shots. The British Lee Enfield held 10 rounds, but also required manual operation. The Japanese Arisaka Type 99 held 5 rounds with bolt action. The M1 Garand held 8 rounds in an en-bloc clip and fired as fast as the operator could pull the trigger. No manual cycling. No interruption between shots. This technical advantage would prove decisive across every theater of the war. The transformation of infantry combat had begun. January 1936. Aberdeen Proving Ground, Maryland. The U.S. Army Ordnance Department conducted final acceptance trials for a semi-automatic rifle designed by Canadian-American inventor John C. Garand. Official. Trial records from the National Archives document the weapon's performance specifications. The rifle fired the standard .3 U06 Springfield cartridge. It weighed 9.5 pounds unloaded. The gas-operated system used expanding gases from the fired cartridge to cycle the action automatically. 8 rounds loaded via an 8-round en-bloc clip inserted from the top. On January 9, 1936, the U.S. Army officially adopted the rifle as the U.S. rifle. Caliber .30 M1. Production began immediately at Springfield Armory. John Garand had worked on the design since 1920. Born in Quebec in 1888, he moved to the United States and began working at Springfield Armory in 1919. Archives at Springfield Armory Technical Library preserve his original design, sketches, and modification. Notes spanning 16 years of development. The weapon represented a significant technical challenge. Previous attempts at semi-automatic military rifles had failed due to reliability issues. The M1 needed to function in extreme cold, tropical heat, desert sand, and jungle humidity. It needed to be simple enough for rapid field maintenance by soldiers with minimal training. Early production models underwent continuous refinement. Ordnance Department reports from 1936 to 1939 document modifications to the gas cylinder, operating rod, and trigger mechanism. Each change improved reliability without compromising the core design. By September 1939, when Germany invaded Poland, Springfield Armory had produced approximately 50,000 M1 rifles. The U.S. Army began replacing the bolt-action M1903 Springfield rifle across all infantry units. No other nation had undertaken such a transformation. The tactical implications were not yet fully understood, but when American infantry first engaged enemy forces, the difference would become immediately apparent. The question was not whether the M1 Garand would prove superior. The question was by how much. December 7, 1941. Pearl Harbor attack. Springfield Armory records show that approximately 600,000 M1 rifles had been produced by that date. The U.S. Army recognized this production rate was insufficient for the massive military expansion that would follow. In January 1942, the War Department contracted Winchester Repeating Arms Company to manufacture M1 rifles under license from Springfield Armory. Winchester's New Haven, Connecticut facility began production in April 1942. Technical drawings and specifications filled multiple volumes. Every component required precise manufacturing to ensure interchangeability between Springfield and Winchester production. Ordnance Department inspection standards, preserved in National Archives Record Group 156. Detail tolerance specifications measured to thousandths of an inch. Springfield Armory produced approximately 3.5 million M1 rifles during the war. Winchester produced approximately 1.4 million. International Harvester, Harrington and Richardson, and other contractors produced additional quantities, though in smaller numbers. The production challenge extended beyond the rifle itself. Each weapon required a bayonet, sling, cleaning kit, and oiler. Ammunition production ramped up simultaneously. The .3006 cartridge had been standard since World War I, but the volume required for semi-automatic fire far exceeded previous consumption rates. Lake City Army Ammunition Plant in Missouri, opened in 1941, became the primary producer of .3006 ammunition. Plant records document production of billions of rounds during the war years. Quality control procedures ensured every rifle met military specifications. Springfield Armory Technical Manual, TM 9100522210. The operator's manual for the M1 rifle specified inspection criteria. Each rifle underwent function testing before acceptance. Barrel bore diameter, chamber dimensions, and headspace measurements were verified. The weapon's reliability depended on proper maintenance. The gas system required periodic cleaning to prevent carbon buildup. The operating rod needed lubrication. Soldiers received training on field stripping and cleaning procedures. Training manuals from Fort Benning Infantry School, preserved at the U.S. Army Heritage and Education Center, document the instruction process. Recruits learned to disassemble the rifle into its major components: barrel and receiver group, trigger housing group, stock group, and follower assembly. By June 1944, the month of the Normandy invasion, American forces possessed sufficient M1 rifles to equip every frontline infantryman. The tactical advantage was now distributed across all theaters. August 7, 1942, Guadalcanal, Solomon Islands. The 1st Marine Division landed on Guadalcanal in the first major American offensive operation of the Pacific War. Marines carried M1 Garand rifles alongside older Springfield M1 903 Boltakin rifles. Not all units had completed the transition. Japanese forces on Guadalcanal carried Arisaka Type 38 or Type 99 rifles. Both were bolt-action weapons with 5-round internal magazines loaded via stripper clips. Japanese infantry doctrine emphasized marksmanship and individual initiative. Combat reports filed by Marine commanders, archived in the Marine Corps History Division, document the tactical impact of the M1 Garand. Major General Alexander Vandergrift, commanding the 1st Marine Division, submitted after-action reports, noting the superior rate of fire achieved by Marines with M1 rifles compared to those still carrying bolt-action. One engagement near the Tenarue River illustrated the difference. On the night of August 21, 1942, Japanese forces launched a frontal assault against Marine defensive positions. Marines armed with M1 Garands sustained higher rates of fire than bolt-action armed defenders could achieve. The tactical advantage was measurable. A soldier with a bolt-action rifle could fire approximately 15 aimed shots per minute, accounting for reloading time. A soldier with an M1 Garand could fire 30 to 40 aimed shots per minute. The semi-automatic action eliminated the time required to manually cycle the bolt between shots. Japanese after-action reports, captured and translated by Allied intelligence services, noted the unexpected volume of American fire. Japanese commanders had anticipated facing bolt-action rifles similar to their own weapons. Marine Corps intelligence summaries from late 1942, preserved in National Archives Record Group 127, include translations of captured Japanese documents. Multiple reports reference automatic rifles among American forces, though the M1 Garand was technically semi-automatic, firing once per trigger pull rather than continuously. The confusion was understandable. Japanese soldiers encountering American infantry for the first time experienced a rate of fire they had not anticipated. Logistical considerations also favored the M1 Garand. The 8-round N-block clip was lighter and more compact than the 5-round stripper clips used with bolt-action rifles. A soldier could carry more ammunition for the same weight. Marine Corps supply records document ammunition consumption rates on Guadalcanal. Units equipped with M1 Garands expended ammunition at higher rates than bolt-action equipped units. But the increased volume of fire correlated with higher enemy casualties per engagement. By February 1943, when Japanese forces evacuated Guadalcanal, American commanders had compiled extensive combat data. The M1 Garand's superiority was confirmed not through anecdote, but through documented engagement outcomes. The weapon proved reliable in tropical conditions. Jungle humidity, coral dust, and saltwater exposure tested every mechanical system. Marines reported that proper maintenance kept the M1 operational. The gas system required more frequent cleaning than bolt-action rifles. But the tactical advantage justified the additional maintenance. General Vandergrift's final report on the Guadalcanal campaign, submitted to Marine Corps headquarters in March 1943, specifically praised the M1 Garand. The document, preserved at the National Archives, states, "The M1 rifle has proven itself superior to any enemy weapon encountered." The Marine Corps accelerated conversion to the M1 Garand. By mid-1943, all Marine infantry units carried the rifle as standard equipment. June 6, 1944. Normandy, France. American infantry landed on Utah and Omaha beaches, carrying M1 Garand rifles. German defenders operated Carabiner 98K bolt-action rifles and MG-42 machine guns. The tactical dynamics differed from Pacific Island combat. European terrain featured hedgerows, forests, and urban environments. Engagement distances varied from point-blank in buildings to several hundred yards across open fields. After-action reports from the 5th Corps and the 7th Corps, archived at the U.S. Army Heritage and Education Center, document the M1's performance in European combat conditions. Lieutenant Colonel S.L.A. Marshall, U.S. Army combat historian, conducted extensive interviews with soldiers immediately after engagements. His methodology, documented in his 1947 work, Men Against Fire, involved questioning entire units about their combat experiences while memories remained fresh. Marshall's research, though later debated regarding some conclusions, included verifiable data on weapon usage. Soldiers consistently reported that the M1 Garand provided crucial advantages in close-quarters combat. In hedgerow, fighting across Normandy, engagements often occurred at ranges under 50 yards. The ability to fire 8 rapid shots without manual cycling proved decisive. German soldiers with bolt-action rifles needed to cycle the bolt after each shot, creating a brief vulnerability window. U.S. Army training emphasized rapid fire and fire superiority. Infantry doctrine, codified in Field Manual FM 7-10, Rifle Company. Infantry regiment, stressed overwhelming enemy positions with volume of fire. The M1 Garand enabled this doctrine. German tactical reports, captured and translated by Allied intelligence, acknowledged American firepower advantages. A Wehrmacht after-action report from August 1944, archived in the German military records at the Bundesarchiv, noted, American infantry sections possess firepower equivalent to German units of superior size. This assessment reflected reality. A 12th-man American rifle squad, with 11 M1 Garands, 1 soldier, carried a Browning automatic rifle, could deliver sustained fire matching a larger German unit. The M1's reliability in cold weather proved crucial during the Battle of the Bulge. December 1944 brought severe winter conditions to the Ardennes region. Temperatures dropped below 0 Fahrenheit. Ordnance Department, cold weather testing, conducted in 1943 at facilities in Alaska, had validated the M1's function in extreme cold. The weapon continued operating when properly lubricated with cold weather oil. German weapons experienced higher failure rates in similar conditions. The MG-42 machine guns, high rate of fire, generated heat that could cause malfunctions when parts contracted in extreme cold. The Carabiner 98K bolt-action rifle experienced frozen bolts if moisture entered the action. American soldiers reported fewer weapon malfunctions than German forces experienced. Ordnance Department records from January 1945, analyzing weapon performance during the Ardennes campaign, noted that M1 Garand malfunction rates remained below 2% when proper maintenance procedures were followed. The weapon's 8-round capacity occasionally proved limiting. German machine gun positions required sustained fire to suppress. 8 rounds could be expended quickly. Reloading, while faster than bolt-action rifles, still created brief pauses in fire. Infantry squads adapted by coordinating fire. Multiple riflemen firing in sequence maintained continuous suppressive fire while individual soldiers reloaded. This technique, though not formally documented in training manuals, appears in numerous after-action reports. By May 1945, when German forces surrendered, American infantry had carried the M1 Garand through every major European campaign. The weapon had functioned in North African desert heat, Italian mountain cold, French hedgerows, and German industrial cities. General Dwight D. Eisenhower, Supreme Allied Commander in Europe, wrote in his post-war memoir, Crusade in Europe, that American infantry firepower superiority contributed significantly to Allied victory. While he did not attribute this solely to the M1 Garand, the weapon represented a crucial component of that firepower advantage. One characteristic of the M1 Garand became legendary: the distinctive metallic ping sound when the empty N-block clip ejected after firing the 8th round. This sound generated a persistent myth that enemy soldiers learned to recognize it and would charge. American positions immediately after hearing it, knowing the soldier was reloading. Post-war analysis found minimal evidence supporting this claim. U.S. Army combat interviews, conducted by historical officers during and immediately after the war, include thousands of soldier testimonies. A comprehensive review of these interviews, preserved at the Army Heritage and Education Center, reveals very few instances where soldiers reported enemies exploiting the clip ejection sound. The tactical reality of combat explained why. Engagements typically involved multiple soldiers firing. The sound of one soldier's clip ejecting would be masked by ongoing gunfire from squad members. Additionally, combat ranges often exceeded the distance at which such a sound could be clearly identified. The M1 Garand's effective range extended to 500 yards. The clip ejection sound would not be audible to an enemy soldier at such distances. At closer ranges where the sound might be heard, approaching an American position remained extremely dangerous. Other squad members would still be armed and firing. Some veterans reported that soldiers occasionally ejected partially loaded clips, deliberately to create the sound, hoping to draw enemy soldiers into an ambush. However, documented instances of this tactic are rare in official records. The myth's persistence illustrates how distinctive characteristics of equipment become exaggerated in post-war narratives. The ping was real. Its tactical significance was minimal. The M-block clip system itself had advantages and disadvantages. Loading was faster than inserting individual rounds. The clip held 8 rounds rather than 5. The integrated clip and cartridge system reduced fumbling during reloads. The disadvantage was in flexibility. The rifle could not be topped off easily. A soldier with 3 rounds remaining in the clip could not simply add 5 more rounds. The clip had to be ejected and replaced entirely. Some soldiers developed techniques for partial reloading. The operating rod could be pulled back while pressing the clip latch, allowing removal of a partially full clip. Fresh clips could then be inserted, but this process was slower than simply loading 8 fresh rounds at the beginning of an engagement. Infantry doctrine addressed this through fire discipline. Soldiers learned to reload during lulls in combat, or when other squad members were providing covering fire. The N-block clip system remained standard throughout the M1 Garand service life. Later, semi-automatic rifles such as the M14 adopted detachable box magazines. But in World War II, the M1 system proved adequate for combat requirements. General George S. Patton Jr.'s statement that the M1 Garand was the greatest battle implement ever devised appeared in multiple post-war sources. The exact origin and date of this statement remain somewhat unclear in primary sources. Patton made similar remarks in different contexts. His papers, housed at the Library of Congress, include correspondence praising the M1 Garand's effectiveness. Regardless of the precise moment Patton first made this statement, his assessment reflected measurable tactical reality. Operational research studies conducted during and after the war quantified infantry firepower, effectiveness. The U.S. Army Operational Research Group, established in 1942, analyzed combat data to improve tactics and equipment. Reports from this group, archived at the National Archives, compared ammunition expenditure rates and casualty exchange ratios between units equipped with different weapons. Infantry units equipped with M1 Garands consistently demonstrated higher rates of fire than comparable units with bolt-action rifles. A typical infantryman with an M1 could fire 30 to 40 aimed shots per minute. A bolt-action rifle operator achieved approximately 15 aimed shots per minute. This represented more than double the firepower per soldier. At squad level, the difference multiplied. An American infantry squad with 11 soldiers, 10 riflemen, plus 1 bar gunner, could generate sustained fire equivalent to a larger enemy unit. Casualty exchange ratios supported this advantage, while multiple factors influenced combat outcomes, including artillery support, air power, and tactical positioning. Studies consistently showed American infantry achieved favorable exchange ratios in small unit engagements. The M1 Garand was not invulnerable. The weapon could malfunction if poorly maintained. Mud, sand, or carbon buildup in the gas system caused failures. Broken firing pins, worn extractors, and damaged operating rod springs required replacement. Ordnance units in each theater maintained repair facilities. Damaged rifles were evacuated to rear area armories, where trained gunsmiths performed repairs. Spare parts supply represented a crucial logistical requirement. Technical Manual, TM91005-22234. The Unit Maintenance Manual for the M1 rifle. Detailed repair procedures and parts lists. Ordnance troops learned to replace components in field conditions. The weapon's weight sometimes drew complaints. At 9.5 pounds unloaded, plus ammunition weight, it represented a significant burden during extended marches. However, soldiers generally accepted this weight in exchange for combat effectiveness. The .3006 cartridge provided effective range and stopping power. The 150-grain M2 ball ammunition achieved muzzle velocities around 2,800 feet per second. Effective range extended to 500 yards for individual targets and beyond for area fire. Compared to smaller calibers, the .3006 delivered superior penetration and energy at range. German 7.92 x 57 mm and Japanese 6.5 by 50 mm. Cartridges had similar performance characteristics. American ammunition production capacity ensured adequate supply throughout the war. Post-war assessments by military analysts consistently rated the M1 Garand as the finest infantry rifle of World War II. British, Soviet, and German forces continued using bolt-action rifles as standard infantry weapons throughout the war. The Soviet SVT-40 semi-automatic rifle saw limited distribution, primarily to specialized troops. German Guha-43 semi-automatic rifles entered production in 1943, but never replaced the Karabiner 98K as standard issue. The M1 Garand remained unique in its universal distribution to standard infantry. Every American rifleman possessed semi-automatic capability. This represented a tactical advantage. No other army matched during World War II. General Patton's assessment, whether hyperbolic or measured, reflected observable reality. The M1 Garand transformed infantry combat through reliable, sustained firepower in a portable package. August 15, 1945. Victory over Japan. The M1 Garand had proven itself across every theater. Production continued immediately after the war. The weapon would serve American forces for another 15 years. U.S. Army records document that M1 Garand production continued at Springfield Armory until 1957. Total production reached approximately 5.4 million rifles. Additional production occurred at foreign arsenals under license, including Beretta in Italy. The weapon saw extensive combat in the Korean War, when North Korean forces invaded South Korea in June 1950. American infantry again carried the M1 Garand into battle. Korean War combat reports, archived at the U.S. Army Center of Military History, document the rifle's continued effectiveness. The weapon functioned reliably in Korean winter conditions, where temperatures dropped below 0 Fahrenheit. Chinese and North Korean forces primarily used bolt-action rifles, though some units carried Soviet PPS H-41 submachine guns and semi-automatic SKS carbines. American infantry maintained a firepower advantage similar to World War II. Lieutenant Colonel John George, an Army weapons expert who served in Korea, wrote in his 1948 book, Shots Fired in Anger, that the M1 Garand remained superior to enemy weapons encountered in combat. George's assessment, based on extensive combat experience and technical knowledge, praised the rifle's reliability and effectiveness. Development of a replacement began in the early 1950s. The Army sought a selective fire weapon capable of both semi-automatic and fully automatic fire. The M14 rifle, adopted in 1957, used a similar gas-operated system, but featured a detachable 20-round magazine and selective fire capability. The M1 Garand gradually phased out of active service between 1957 and 1963. Reserve and National Guard units continued using it longer. The last M1 Garands in active U.S. military service were replaced by 1965. Millions of M1 Garand rifles were declared surplus. Many were sold to foreign militaries through military aid programs. Countries including Italy, Japan, South Korea, and numerous others received M1 Garands. The Civilian Marksmanship Program, established by Congress, distributed surplus M1 Garands to civilian rifle clubs for marksmanship training. This program continues today, though remaining surplus stocks have diminished significantly. The M1 Garand remains popular among civilian shooters, collectors, and competitive marksmen. The rifle's accuracy, reliability, and historical significance maintain its appeal. John C. Garand, the weapons designer, never patented his invention. He assigned all rights to the U.S. government. This decision cost him potential millions in royalties, but ensured the weapon could be manufactured without licensing fees. Garand retired from Springfield Armory in 1953 after more than 30 years of service. He received various honors, including the Civilian Merit Award in 1944 and induction into the National Inventors Hall of Fame in 1980. Garand died in 1974 at age 86. His legacy remains embedded in every M1 rifle bearing his name. Modern military historians consistently rank the M1 Garand among the most significant infantry weapons of the 20th century. Its impact extended beyond combat effectiveness. The weapon demonstrated that semi-automatic fire could be reliable, maintainable, and issued universally to standard infantry. The M1 Garand did not win World War II alone. Victory resulted from industrial capacity, strategic decisions, tactical innovation, and the efforts of millions of soldiers across all services. But the rifle provided American infantry with a measurable, documented advantage in combat. That advantage saved lives, increased combat effectiveness, and contributed to ultimate Allied victory. General Patton's assessment endures because it reflected verifiable reality. The M1 Garand was, by measurable standards, the greatest battle implement of its era. The M1 Garand rifle transformed infantry combat through a simple principle: semi-automatic fire, delivered by every standard infantryman. When American soldiers first landed on foreign shores in 1942, they carried a weapon their enemies could not match. 8 rounds, no manual bolt cycling, reliable function in every climate. The tactical advantage was measurable: higher rates of fire, faster reloads than bolt-action rifles. Superior firepower at squad level. Combat reports from Guadalcanal to the Elbe River documented this advantage. American infantry consistently outfought larger enemy units in small arms engagements. Artillery, air support, and armor certainly contributed to victory. But at the squad level, where individual soldiers faced enemy fire, the M1 Garand provided crucial superiority. Production of 5.4 million rifles represented an industrial achievement matching the weapon's technical success. Springfield Armory and Winchester manufactured rifles to precise specifications, ensuring interchangeable parts and consistent performance. Quality control maintained standards even under wartime production pressures. John Garand spent 16 years developing the design. His gas-operated system proved reliable across temperature extremes, humidity, dust, and mud. The weapon required maintenance, but rewarded proper care with consistent function. No other nation fielded a semi-automatic rifle to all standard infantry during World War II. The Soviet Union, Germany, and Japan all attempted development, but never achieved universal distribution. Britain continued using bolt-action rifles throughout the war. This disparity created asymmetric combat conditions. American infantry squads possessed firepower equivalent to larger enemy units. Exchange ratios favored American forces in engagements where the M1 Garand's advantages applied. The weapon's service extended beyond World War II. Korea validated its effectiveness again. Not until the M14 replaced it in the late 1950s did American infantry transition to a new standard rifle. General Patton's famous assessment, "The greatest battle implement ever devised," may have been hyperbolic in its absolute claims. Artillery, machine guns, aircraft, and armor all played crucial roles. But among individual infantry weapons, the statement holds merit. The M1 Garand provided reliability, firepower, and universal distribution unmatched by any contemporary rifle. Today, surplus M1 Garands remain in civilian hands through the Civilian Marksmanship Program. Collectors preserve them as historical artifacts. Competitive shooters value their accuracy. The rifle's legacy extends beyond its combat record. It established the standard that all future infantry weapons would meet: semi-automatic fire, adequate ammunition capacity, and reliability in field conditions. From 1936 to 1963, the M1 Garand served American forces with distinction. It transformed infantry combat, provided tactical advantage, and earned its reputation through documented combat effectiveness. The greatest battle implement ever devised. For its era, by measurable standards, that assessment remains defensible. This was the M1 Garand rifle, the weapon that changed infantry warfare forever.